Yeah.
Crazy. Well, guys, it's Wednesday night. You know what that means. It's time for Conversations with Cougars, and I've got a great one tonight. I've got a former teammate of mine, baseball and football. I know you guys recognize this 2015 Wiregrass Sports Hall of Fame inductee, Richard Shaughnessy. Richard, thank you so much for making some time to be with us tonight. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Sure. Sounds good.
Well, for folks who've been living under a rock or maybe don't have internet until this week, tell folks what you've been doing at Troy University all these years, 25 years or so, right?
Well, when Coach Parrish gave me the opportunity in '85, to actually help after I finished up to help coach with that team as well. And then, I played ball at Wallace for a little bit, turned around and transferred to Auburn. Got involved with Bill Kazmaier, who was one of the strongest men in the world at the time and all. And I wanted to learn how to run a gym and how to do strongman and stuff like that. And so got involved with him. Coach Parrish called me one day and says, "Hey, I need somebody to do the weights at the middle school level and also come over here and assist with the offensive line." And so I left Auburn and after I graduated, and came back home and coached with him for a year at Northview there whenever that was like the 89, 90. And he retired and went to Georgia and took me with him. And I was his strength coach and offensive line coach at Early County for right at 6 years, up until 96, 97 area. And I turned around and, the superintendent there at the time, he said, "Shaughnessy," he said, we appreciate everything you've done. And we had some good runs and some good kids, put a lot of kids went to college and stuff. And he said, "You can't get Dallas Cowboys, Tennessee, or, from Early County, and he said, you got to go." So I went down to Florida State. I did a lot of work with Coach Van Hollinger at FSU. Me and him were good friends. And he said, if you want to get into college, you better take it. So I came here and left a job making pretty good money, came here to continue my school and, did that for a couple of years and got my master's and my EDS. And I've been here ever since. I was first strength coach hired here at Troy. And this is 26, going on 26 years. I've had a good run. It's Coach Blakeney took me under his wing. I was with him for 23 of that. So I'm still here. I've gone from that to director, and I've been real fortunate. We've had a good run of good athletes, and DeMarcus Ware and OCU Miura and some of those guys. I've had a really good opportunity to coach a lot of great players and a lot of good guys. Not only that, but softball and baseball and basketball. I mean, track and field, we've had them, a little bit of all of them. So it's been, I haven't really ever left athletics. And, Coach Parrish, he groomed me to, he was like a father to me. He is like a father to me. I mean, I owe him. And we talked about Bubba, Bubba buying my first glove and, working me on Saturdays. And I can remember football wise, I was watching some of your other videos, and I can remember Coach Parrish getting us a job with Jim Lofton at Allied Van Lines, big orange trucks, working in the heat during the summer, unloading those trucks and doing all that. I remember doing that for 2 summers. And me and Mike Rooker, we talked about Mike Rooker earlier. Mike Rooker was there with me, and we looked at each other one day. We were actually had gone up Tuscaloosa to put to load some new coaches up there. And we looked at each other one day, and it was about 127 in that trailer, and we said, "We're going to school and get education." And so, so that's how it went. And but man, I've been blessed. I'm really fortunate to be a part. Like you said, to be a part of the 81 team, to be a part of the 85 team. We've had good runs up here as far as championships and stuff. So it's I can't do nothing but say thank you. So
well, it's just your journey has been an inspiration to many. And the fact that you've been able to be such a positive influence for all these years for so many student athletes coming up, and that you still are. Look at all those jerseys hanging behind you. That's a testament to some of the student athletes that have come through Troy over the years. And I know that's just a fraction. That's all that we can see because of the space where you could hang those things. But Richard, I remember us back in high school with you being a couple years ahead of me and being an offensive lineman. And when I was a 9th grader and then a 10th grader, I always made a point to learn, but playing quarterback, I always learned who all the protectors were in front of me. But I also got to know you through baseball, of course, with you being a pitcher, and we had a pretty good run my sophomore year, your senior year. But reflecting back now with so much time has gone by, that it's such a small sliver of time in our overall lifetime, but it's such an impressionable time. What is it that when you think back about those 4 years of high school that makes the most impression on you? I know it brings a smile to your face if you hear a certain song, or maybe you see a former teammate, but what is it that makes the most impression about that 4-year time period about being in high school?
Well, for me, the only reason I played football was to get in the weight room. I was really a better baseball player than I was a football player, but I really enjoyed the weights and what Coach Parrish had us doing. And, just to skip around a second, the thing I remember about the 81 championship team is coming back on that first offensive bus and hearing the song by Kool and the Gang, Celebration. And because I heard you ask somebody else about some of the songs and things that you remember about that time, the music and the way everybody got together, and and they were right, people waiting for us and sending us off, and it was just such a great feeling. You just felt so important. And the police escort, I can remember hearing that song coming through Ozark, and when we were coming back, and they said, "Hey, there's thousands of people waiting for y'all at school," and it's just all of it is so important. Just it helped mold me to where I'm at. I mean, and more so than that, Coach Parrish. I mean, him and Bubba. I mean, really took me and just I mean, most people don't know I never missed a day of school. I still haven't missed a day of school. I mean, and even when I was sick, because I never wanted to disappoint Coach Parrish. I always wanted to try to do, I remember one time I made a C or a D or something. I can't even remember. It was a class. And I remember him just scalding me. I mean, he used to stand out there and have that was going with that board, and I was like, and he just looked at me and he said, "Do I really have to say anything?" I said, "You don't, I mean," he said, "I just can't believe you." And so, and even when I coached, I still have that same philosophy, and I still, the coach, I've got 9 people under, the coaches that are under me, it taught me, how to be a coach and how to guide people and be a leader. I'm not very good at following. I mean, and I think that's what was instilled in me. I mean, I was, I always thought that I played above myself anyway. I mean, I was always felt like I was a little inferior, and being around some of the people, and until later in life, I figured out that really didn't matter. I always, when I speak, sometimes I talk about, there's 4 of us and we all took different paths. And, when we walked out that front door, my mother did the best job she could do us was, when we walked out that front door, it came down to choices and decisions that we made for ourselves. And, I think you asked me what the 4 years, it helped me to make good choices and good decisions, in life and what I'm doing. I want, going to school. I mean, I got 3 degrees now. I mean, who would have ever thought, a guy like me was going to continue and go on and doing all that. So, and be where I'm at now, I mean, so.
It's those 4 years, like ages 13 to 18, 14 to 19, all that time period, when we're going through 9th through 12th grade, not only are we physically maturing, we're mentally maturing, we're emotionally maturing. So by the time you're a senior, and you've had that success in sports, and the coaches have made such an impression on you or on the athletes, you really come out of there as a very confident person for the most part. And before I get too far, Richard, we got some folks that want to say hello to you. We got Charles Kelly Bronson.
Oh, wow.
We got Douglas D.C. Clark. And Tony Donaldson says, "What's up, Coach?"
Yep. Oh, Tony. I coached him here.
We let every once in a while we let a Tiger kind of slip in.
Let me tell you what I remember about Charles, about Bronson.
Uh-huh.
We had to work for our rings.
Uh-huh.
We had to go work at Braceville and Gorey. It was a sewage plant that we had to go work at, and we would meet with him over at Dave Mitchell's house. We'd all meet together, and we'd jump in the car. And he introduced me to AC/DC. That's what I remember about
That's
that.
awesome.
But
that's awesome.
But yeah, but it was a fun time. So
it was. Donnie Grill says to tell you hello.
Oh wow, how about that?
I'm telling you, they're coming out of the woodworks for Richard Shaughnessy tonight.
That's awesome.
But Richard, going back to my thought that was a little bit rambling, but my point being is, by the time we're seniors and we've had all that experience, those 4 years in high school, successes and some losses and disappointments, but you've now, by the time you graduate or you're getting close to graduation, you kind of have a plan in your mind. I'm going to go to college, or I'm going to go do this. This is kind of what I want to do. And it doesn't all work out that way. Right. But the journey that you've been on, and several times, I know how important Bubba and Coach Parrish have been to you over the years. And I think that's one of the key things to me, that when you play high school sports, those coaches, or college sports, the coaches who are there to lead those student athletes are so important. And we had some of the very best around. Coaches Hicks and Andrews, Griffin, Tripp. I mean, all of those men, and I don't mean to leave anybody else out, but they all made, they made men out of us. Oh, yeah. And I just think it's so important. I know that that's a legacy you've then continued on at Early County and now at Troy. But here's my serious question for you. Mm-hmm. Please tell me that you have also adopted some of Coach Parrish's famous sayings. Sam Hill.
What in Sam Hill you doing?
Please tell me you've called somebody a burrhead once or twice.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you, I heard that 1,000 times, probably more than that, actually. But, it was, Coach Parrish was trying to mold me into being a head coach. Even when I was at Early County, he gave me the opportunity, when David was there, he took me with him as a strength coach and let me run the program. And really, I was his right hand, and because when we were over there, he was handling buses and stuff, and I really was handling all the internal stuff, and it really groomed me to go that. And then, when the opportunity to get into college came, it was just, and it came from because we had such success in Early County with the number of athletes who were able to go on and sign, Division I scholarships, and so they said, hey, we're going to hire our first guy. And at the time, my brother Leonard was here. Mm-hmm. He had signed as a center here, and so he came in and we trained together and all. And anyway, so everything kind of worked out for the better, and and now he's coaching at Northview or Dothan High. Now he's doing the same thing. He followed my foot. He's doing the same thing I'm doing, but he's at the high school level.
How cool! And we're going to come back to Leonard in a minute. DC Clark says, "Thank you for all the rides to and from practice, Rich."
Oh yeah. Wow, man, that's cool.
Rich, what over the last years in your position at Troy, you've had thousands of athletes in multiple sports, but when the kids who come through the Wiregrass, particularly Dothan and Northview, does that kind of get on your radar a little bit more than the kids from other places? Or do you have that connection a little bit? Oh yeah, BJ Chitty and some of those guys, they played for me too here, and like you said, Tony Donaldson. And we've had a lot of good players, kicker that came from over there. It's been
you always want to make sure you have a conversation and talk to them and get to know them a little bit more, and you treat them a little bit different just because they are from where you're, where you've been, but yeah, Dothan's always got a special place when players come out of there. I mean, as far as when they get to this place here. So
I'm sure. And I know we're kind of moving around a little bit, but things are just kind of percolating as we're talking. I want to take us back to high school. I want to take us to your senior year.
Mm-hmm.
Your freshman going in, well, I guess it would have been your sophomore year was the year that we won the state title in the fall of 81. Then I was 2 years behind you. So it would have been my sophomore spring, 84, your senior year. We had a very, very good baseball team.
We did.
Of course, led by Barry Hightower, who had all world that year. And what I appreciated and what folks may not know about or remember about.
I kid all the time. He went to the Mets and I went to Wallace. I got, because I had a scholarship for Troy for football, and then I had a baseball for that.
That's right. And, Barry threw in the 90s, was a lefty. I played third base, so not a lot of balls got pulled my way, and I was very appreciative of that. But one of the beautiful things about Rich, guys, if you didn't get to see him back in the day, Rich was always built. He was an offensive lineman. He comes in, he's a pitcher, comes up on the mound, and you think he's going to mimic what Barry's doing as a lefty because of the strength, the appearance. And what I loved about your pitching, it wasn't that. It was everything else but pure strength. It was junk. It was nibbling. It was awesome is what it was. It was just such a diverse approach to pitching compared to Barry.
But I think that's what had made us successful, is that their timing was off. Barry, whether I started or Barry started and we finished, we would, Blake pitched a little bit too in there, but mainly it was me and Barry, and Barry, Barry'd come in and throw the heat, and I'd come in and they'd be so off. They pop up or fly it to the infield. I didn't have a bunch of strikeouts, but I had a lot of fly, pop-ups and things like that. So the ground balls in the infield, so it kept their timing off, and it worked well for a long time.
It did. It was almost like those cartoons that you used to see when the guys would swing 3 times before the ball would come across the plate because the timing was so off. But between you and Barry, I think you had close to 20 of the 27 wins. I don't know what your record was that year, but between the two of y'all, you had most of the wins. But that was a fun time until the end, until I broke my arm and we didn't beat Fairhope. But those are some vivid memories that from my days of high school, and I know of yours, that still are very vivid with me all those years later. When you went to graduate, not later that same month, May or June of 84, had you already decided in your mind baseball over football? Had you already come to that?
No, I didn't. That summer I went and played American Legion post 12 with Coach Frichter at Wallace, and we were coming out of Tallahassee, and I was riding back with him, and he said, "Hey, how would you like to do? I know you got football and all that." And I said, "Well, and back then Troy scholarships, they were all split up, and it was a little bit here. They were trying to get as many, when they won AA and all that stuff. So, but I ended up, going out there and playing with him for a while, and then I turned around and transferred to Auburn, and I learned a lot of baseball, because when I got to Early County, I had Josh Parrish who was pitching for me at that time, and I was coaching baseball there too, and we were successful. I coached baseball. I did offensive line, ran the weight room, and coached baseball as well. So, but I had some good players too. Him and a kid named Sean Freeman were pretty good. So, but like I said, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of. I'm sitting here thinking about all the kids that I've had the opportunity to be around,
but Richard, you need to, and I know you're not going to publicly say this, so I'm going to say it for you. You can have athletes with all the talent in the world, all the God-given gifts in the world, but if they don't follow direction, and if they don't have leadership from their coaches, such as you, such as Coach Parrish, such as Coach Josh Parrish later on, if they're not led by strong coaches, then they don't develop. Their team doesn't come together. So there's a lot of success in the fact that they were just pure athletes, of course, but that doesn't make a team. the coaches pull the team, pull those athletes together. And as much as their credit on the field should be as much credit to you guys off the field, because it has to be together. And speaking of successful coaches who made a positive impact, Coach Randy Hicks says to tell you hello, Rich.
Oh, it's good to hear that. How's he been doing? He's doing good?
I think if he doesn't have a line wet in the water, I think it's it's a rare day.
It's been that way a long time. Yeah,
that's right. Well, guys, I'm talking with Richard Shaughnessy. He's been the strength and conditioning coach and many other things at Troy for over 25 years. He's a 1984 graduate of Northview, and I was proud to call him teammate and friend back then, and I'm glad to get to reconnect with him. Rich, let's talk about that transition from being an athlete to becoming a coach. We all have it. Father Time catches up with us. Some of us recognize it earlier than others. Some of us retire gracefully on our own terms. Others have injury that speeds up that process. And I want to talk about your process first, and then how you've seen it with all the athletes who've come through Early County, Troy, et cetera, over the years. And before you do that, we got another awesome Cougar and coach. He's doing some great things in the Ozark area. Michael Henry has joined us. Hey, Mike.
Good for him.
13.
Yep.
Rich, let's talk about, when did you realize or recognize it was time to hang up the cleats and everything and move into the next phase of being a coach?
Well, like I said, when I got to Auburn, I got involved heavily in the weightlifting part of things and working with Bill Kazmaier and all that. And then really, Coach Parrish wouldn't take no for an answer. He said, you need to come home, and so when I got through I always wanted to be a coach. Like I said, I volunteered to help on the 85 team, even while I was still in college and doing stuff. And then when I obviously after that, I had to leave, but, I always knew I was going to be a coach. I mean, I always wanted to be a coach, and, it just seconded once I got that point. I mean, for me, I never left the game.
Mm-hmm.
I never left the game. I told somebody not too long, I never went home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Until even now, I don't. I mean, so, I never knew what it was like to go home after school, because I was practicing with baseball, or I was practicing with football, or I was in the weight room or whatever. And, and it was who I am. I mean, even now, everybody, still just calls me coach. I mean, if I go out in the community, I mean, how's the team? Everybody wants to know everything, but, now I'm over 17 teams. I mean, so, it's not just one that I'm responsible for. I mean, it's a bunch of, but I mean, I always wanted to be a coach, and coaching was just in my blood. And like I said, Coach Parrish saw that, and Coach Johnson did too. He gave me the opportunity after I said, look, I'm, I'm through playing. I'm trying to get my degree. I need to get back and get into the profession. I didn't know that I was going to come back, because I really was going to try to open my own gym. Mm-hmm. And Coach Parrish said, hey, look, I need you to come back. Coach Parrish is at Girard. He needs help. I want you over there. Help him during the day, come over to us in the afternoon. I want you to be on the field with that. And Coach Johnson took me in too. I helped him as well with baseball and coached bases with him, and did city ball, with I had the 15-year-olds that beat the 16-year-olds that year. We went and played, went on into the finals and stuff. I mean, I just kept in it, I mean, and but for me, it was because coaches did it for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, coaches took me in. They didn't have to. I mean, at the time, my dad wasn't very involved and watched me. I mean, I think he's probably only seen me play a couple games. We got a great relationship now, but I mean, it was Coach Parrish, and it's Coach Johnson, and I can remember going with Coach Johnson on Saturdays. He had some rental properties or whatever, and he needs some big pieces. Me and Lonnie would go help him move washing machines and refrigerator stuff, and we'd go eat at Ray's restaurant. he'd take us to Ray's and we'd eat, you know, and I just loved everything about it. I mean, you know, and that's why we're still great friends today, you know. I mean,
And I suspect, even though you and I hadn't been in touch in years, I suspect you now fulfill that role and have for years for so many student athletes who've come through Troy. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. But how difficult of a conversation can it be for you when you have that conversation with athletes who either through injury or graduation or just lack of desire, you recognize before maybe they want to admit that it's time for them to move on to the next phase of their life, whatever that may be?
well, you know, I'm the pro liaison here too. I handle all the NFL stuff, all the agents, financial advisors, scouting, pro days. And, you know, I've had to have some, and every kid that comes in thinks they're going to the NFL or going to have a chance to go play Major League Baseball and get into a camp. And, or, you know, our soccer team, our girls going to play in Europe. Volleyball going to play in Europe. I mean, track and field continue to run and go to Olympic trials. I mean, and there are some conversations you got to have, you know, hey, you know, your degree is way more important. And I stress all the time, you're a student athlete, and it's in that order on purpose. You know, you need to be a student and an athlete second. And if you come here and you don't get a degree, you've worked for free. You know, because the school, it's a business. I'm in a business. The school makes money, you know, the teams make money. I mean, the conference makes money on you, you know, and you know where everything's going now with college athletics. I mean, but it's but you know, so many kids will come in. I have to talk them in to finishing their degrees, you know, because, well, nobody in my family's graduated. You know, nobody in my family ever got. I'm the first person in my family to ever go to college. And I said, but that's not good enough for you just to come and go to college and stay for 3 years or whatever. And, you know, so I do more counseling and more life coaching than I do them lifting weights. I mean, you know, or, you know, trying to get, I mean, that's part of it. But the weight room has become so much more. You know, we see the athletes way more than any other coach, even their head coaches. I mean, head coaches call me to want to know what's going on with their kids. You know, and nowadays you got to pay attention to where they are mentally. Is there mood swings? Is there changes? I mean, you know, how are they handling things? Are they depressed? I mean, are they not eating right? You know, I mean, so it's become such a science of what we're doing. You know, are they sleeping? I mean, we track their sleep. We track their eating. We track what time of day they work out. I mean, how long they're in the weight room, you know, how long they're on the practice, on the court or the field and all that stuff. I mean, it's just so much more to it now. I mean, I kid all the time, we build machines in this factory, you know, and they got to keep clicking because the train's got to keep rolling.
Yeah. You know, and I hope that, I know this is part of what you stress to them, but I don't know if the average student athlete as an 18-year-old freshman or whatever it is, the age-wise they first come to you, appreciates they have a limited window of opportunity and they need to maximize what they're being exposed to 4, 5, 6 years, and they're done with their eligibility, which means they may be finished with their scholarship and the ability to be in college. And most, I assume, it sinks in over time. Some of them maybe a little too late, but you're so right that when we were coming up, Richard, in the 80s and even the kids in the 90s, it was such a different experience.
Well, it was such an honor to even be considered for a scholarship, to even be considered, to get a letter from a school. I mean, now they're doing us a favor by coming here, not us doing them a favor by, and that's where it's evolved because, you know, and you know, with the APR and you know, having to pass the clearinghouse and all that stuff, you know, you're not always the best players are making it to school because they're not qualifying, and so you know, a lot of times you're going after qualifiers over talent sometimes. and where we come into play, we have to develop that kid. But I mean, we get a kid that's an inch too short or a second too slow. I mean, you better be a good strength coach. You better be good at what you're doing because you got to develop them. I mean, but now there's so much talent. I mean, now everything's become so sports specific, and very few. We played multiple sports. I mean, everybody played multiple sports. You either played basketball and football, or you played baseball, or you ran track or whatever. Now, by the time they get to high school, it's one sport. You better be really good at that one sport. And they're training outside of there, and they're training going here and going there, or somebody sent them to me. Hey, will you take a look at my kid? Tell me what we need to work on, and what is it going to take for us to get him to this level and stuff like that. And I'm not so sure that's been a good thing. I think it was healthy to play multiple sports.
Yeah, and I've heard many orthopedic doctors, including Dr. Jimmy Andrews, who really talks about that.
Well, Dr. Dugas is our head physician, which is Dr. Andrews' right hand, and I mean, all your injuries now are overuse injuries.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, let's kind of pivot for the time that we've got remaining, Richard. And for those of you just joining us, or may join us or catch us on YouTube on the replay, I've got Richard Shaughnessy, class of '84 from Northview, played on the '81 state championship team. He's been at Troy for 26 years, strength and conditioning, and so many more departments where he just oversees so many student athletes, 17 sports. How many student athletes approximately at Troy right now?
455.
That's
what
and that's more than several of the SEC schools that I know about. It's probably more than many Power 5 schools in the country. But Rich, I'm going to throw some Dothan back in the 80s terms and things, and I want you to give me your first impression.
All right, hit me with it.
Rip Hughes Stadium on a Friday night right before kickoff.
I'm sick to my stomach before I go out there on the field. Butterflies, the electricity, to be able to play in Rip Hughes and to be in front of a home crowd was amazing. I mean, I've been a part of a lot of games and on the field and on sidelines, and a lot of them never compared to that feeling coming out from that side and coming out. And drinking the honey water before we go out, that coach would keep in the showers in there. So, yeah.
All right, let me give you another one. It's 105 degrees at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, third week in August, the week before your first game, and you're going out there for the second, maybe third time of the day to practice, and you got on full pads.
I'll tell you what I remember. Coach wouldn't let us have water.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we dug a hole down by the water spigot, and we would turn it on and let it drip, and we would wear towels around our waist so that we could go dip it in the water, and we'd bring that nasty water out in our mouth just so we could get, I remember we only got water like one time during practice. I can remember.
Wow. I'm going to ask Slim McDuffie, did you hear what Richard just said about digging holes and letting the water? Oh, that's just gross. And
it's true.
Lauren Sermon Hatcher has joined us for talking with Richard Shaughnessy. All right, I got a couple more for you. Mr. Smith with his poem at the end of a pep rally on a Friday.
You can't meet me there, beat me there. Have your smiling faces in their usual places. If you can't meet me there, beat me there. And he kicked them heels together, and they go crazy.
How electric was the gym right before we went out for the pep rally?
Amazing. And the teachers, are dressing up and being part of it. That's why everybody was on board. It was such a big deal. It was just awesome.
Talk about school spirit back then.
School spirit was second to none at Northview during that time. Every year I was there. I mean, getting in the gym and having the pep rallies and hollering and carrying on. And like I said, waiting on the buses, and on Friday nights, being over at the stadium. And when you come off the field and people waiting for you to shake your hand as they come down the steps right there, and like I said, the smells too. I remember the smells,
Certainly you remember the bread company smell coming across the stadium.
Colonial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right. What was your go-to lunch at school?
My go-to lunch was always the pizza. I'm pretty sure everybody says that too. But that was the easiest to get to, and they cooked it every day. And and the rolls, the yeast rolls.
$1.25 would get you that rectangle pizza. It would get you those fries, and it would get you either a pink or a yellow lemonade.
That's right.
With ice.
That's right.
All right, I got a couple more. All right. Third base dugout, Northcut Field, spring of '84.
What do you want to know about it?
I want to know. I want to remember your impressions of Dula in the dugout.
Scott Dula, he was always putting on a show. I know that. Carrying on, hooping and hollering, fussing at the officials. I can remember fussing at the officials and carrying on. I remember him telling them one time if they didn't keep him quiet, he was going to get thrown out of the game.
What about bus rides with Bubba driving, whether it's baseball or football?
Oh,
he always was one of the drivers.
He always drove. Yeah, he always drove, and we always stopped somewhere and ate bad. I know that. I mean, we ate what was cheap, convenient, and fast, and we could go to the bathroom. But Bubba, like I said, I can't say anything. Bubba's great to me. He was great to me.
Favorite teachers? Do you have any?
I'll tell you who a couple coaches and I call them teachers. Coach Kirkland, Coach Andrews, when we had the B team, talking to me and teaching me things. And I can remember we all went to a playoff game, and Coach Philip Krill went through, he went through some hard times then, and was at that time, I think he was even coaching at Honeysuckle. He had already been a head coach and had played at Auburn and all. And me and him talked for about 3 or 4 hours, and on a van ride. And I mean, it was really, I've had some really good people around me to guide me, and not only to what to do, but what not to do and how to handle yourself and all that stuff. And so, and Jimmy Golden over at Dothan High, Coach Addison over at Dothan High, those guys, he tried to hire me the year I got to come here. He tried to hire me to go to Dothan High to be the strength coach over there from when I was at Early County. And so, and we all kept in touch, but coaching is the best form of teaching. And, those guys who stick out in my mind, more than anything from a learning experience.
You mentioned your brother Leonard earlier.
Right.
Let's talk about him for just a minute. What's the age difference in you guys?
10 years.
10 years.
Yep.
When he came, I think he came through about the time my brother David came through. David was the class of '94, and you were the class of '84.
That's right.
What's he doing now for Dothan High, and how is the weirdness worn off for him because he's been there for a little bit? What's he doing?
Well, they got a new coach now too. He's been through 2 other coaches. Let me go back a little bit. Leonard played here. He went and played arena ball for a while after he got done here. He came back. He GA'd for me in the weight room to get his master's degree. One of his former teammates was down in Orlando. He went to Orlando. He stayed in Orlando coaching football down there at Apopka, some of those schools for 10 years. And then Coach Parrish called me one day and said, hey, we're going to hire strength coaches at Dothan High and Northview, and they're going to be hired. And he actually asked me what it would take to get me to come back. And I was like, well, I'm not sure that's something I'm ready to do right yet. So, but I said, but my brother would be interested. And so that's how Leonard got back to Dothan. Coach Parrish at that time was on the board and all, and they were building those 2 strength coach positions for only strength because they saw such a need for it. And then, they asked me all the criteria and stuff like that, and I helped draw the criteria for it and all. But that's how he got back. But I don't know where they got wolves from. One thing, and they let the kids pick it. And, there's so much tradition there. I mean, and, but you had a lot of people who had entered the system who didn't, I don't think, understand what it means to be a Dothan Tiger or it means to be a Northview Cougar. And, you know, I understand why they kind of combined it, but I would have thought that they would have, I would have just called them the Dothan Cats or something, you know. I mean, combine the name. But it's still kind of hard to get the colors that they're using and all that stuff. I mean, you know, I'm sure a lot of people have mixed feelings and mixed emotions about it, but it's
now I think we're entering this fall will be the 4th school term, I think, since they've combined the schools. What does Leonard coach now? And
he's just a strength coach. I mean, he's in the weight room all day long. He does every sport, just like, and that's what I'm saying. They created a position for just strength conditioning. When I was at Early County, we had that. That's what I did too. I was just a strength coach the entire day for all sports. So I stayed in the weight room. We handled it like a college, you know, and the same thing is now what they're doing there. You know, they got the field house out next to the field, and you know, everybody uses that facility to train in.
Man, how nice would that have been back in our day?
Yeah, it's a nice place too. They did a really good job on it.
Yeah. What do you remember about the weights and what was available when we were in high school?
Oh man, I can tell you about those red racks. Coach Parrish had those things built, man, in a welding shop, you know, and they had plywood platforms on them, and they were all rickety and had dowel rods with end caps that had been welded on the end of them, and the bars, and you know, you'd unscrew them and slide them up and down to get your height. And but you know what? We trained. I mean, we trained. We got bigger. We got faster. We got stronger. You know, we worked out hard. We bench squatted and we pulled them deadlifts. And you know, I can remember Larry Roberts pulling 600 from the floor up there, coming off the basketball court at a basketball practice, and coming up there and you know, setting the record. And it was a big deal to get the shirts, you know, the 300-pound shirt, the 350 shirt, you know, to get all your totals. I still got those shirts actually to get your totals on. And I use those points even later in some, even here, you know, to create clubs, you know, for lifting clubs, to create an incentive, you know. And it was a big deal to have one of those shirts on and walk around school, you know.
It sure was. Richard, we've got just another couple of minutes, and I want to talk about school pride. Whether you're from Northview High School, Troy University, or Timbuktu, it doesn't matter. What do you stress to your student athletes about when they're away from campus, whether they're a current student athlete or they've graduated and they're now out in their professions? What does it mean, or what do you try to stress to them about representing their school?
Be an example, be a good example. You know, you're always going to be a Northview Cougar. You know, you're always going to be an Auburn Tiger, or you're always going to be whatever, you know what I mean? And, you know, so people look at that, you know, of who gets in trouble, you know, carry yourself, you know, character, and I tell my kids is doing the right thing when nobody's looking. And, you know, that's something these days you really have to work on. The loyalty, you know, be loyal, be loyal to the program. That's hard to do now with, you know, them being able to go out and go to other schools and with the portal and stuff like that from a college standpoint. Yeah. And even in high school now, you know, they're moving around a lot. I mean, so, and going to different places, you know, going to the private school or going over here, going there, you know, I mean, when we were there was Dothan High in Northview and Houston Academy. Now there's 6 other private schools, 6 or 7, I think they said, you know, and they're all full and taking, and people are moving to Rehoboth. They've gone up in classification. Wicksburg's gone up in classification. Headland's gone up in classification. And so, you know, it's changed, you know, but, you know, as far as, you know, be loyal. I mean, we need more people, you know, kids to be loyal to the program and loyal to, you know, because for me, I'm loyal. They gave me Northview gave me a lot of opportunity, you know, through the people that I was there with, you know, my education, you know, to be able to play baseball, to be able to play football, And, and then even here, I'm loyal because to have the job that I have. So,
some great lessons learned tonight, Richard. I can't thank you enough for sharing your journey and the impression that these coaches have made upon you, and that you've then in turn passed it on to the next generation in your position of being such a positive influence on literally thousands of athletes over the years. So thank you not only for our conversation, but what you've continued and will continue to do in your position.
Well, I appreciate you doing what you're doing. I had been told about it. I think it's really good for, some of the things that you brought up and some of the things that people remember, a down and distance and plays and where they were at, who hit the home run and it's really cool because I don't think that this generation now feels the importance of that. I tell kids all the time, I say, don't have any regrets. I know I didn't have any regrets. I did everything that I could do to be successful. And I still tell them that, to not, because you'll have a kid that want to quit. And I've had some that have done that. And I said, use this as a gauge. If you can make a decision and you think 5 years from now, you're still going to be okay with that decision, then do it. But I've had too many come back to me 5 years later and say, hey, coach, I wished I would have listened to what you said. I think I could have played longer. I think I should have done this. I think I could have done better in school or whatever. And so, and like I said, I learned that from other people, from Bubba, from Coach Parrish. I can't talk enough about it. I talked about Mark King, Mark carrying me to school. He'll never know how much that meant to me for him to come by there and pick me up, and carry us, every morning and sacrifice. I remember, I think he took $5 a week for gas or something,
Let me ask you about your experience of riding with Mark to see if it compared to my experience of riding with Blake Hall to school every day. I paid the same amount you did to ride, but we were in that silver Z260, whatever it was.
280Z, yeah.
280Z.
Yeah.
And he played Rick Springfield's Jesse's Girl as loud as it could possibly go with those extra speakers. We could hear him 6 houses away.
Well, Kingery liked Alabama. They had just came out, and he had an older model Caprice Classic or an Impala. I can't remember which one, but that his dad had given it, he had handed it down to him. And boy, we just thought we were it, I hope he sees this, because I would like to really touch base with him again.
I'm sure he'll reach out, but there was nobody cooler than me riding in Blake's Z. But I still, to this day, Richard, I cannot stand that song. My kids even know the impact that song has had on me over the years.
Yeah, Blake always had the nicest cars for sure.
He did. And I want to say, and I love you, Blake, wherever you are. Didn't he also have the puka shell necklace for a while? Love it. Richard, thank you so much, bud, for spending some time on Conversations with Cougars. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Hang around for just a second when we sign off. Guys, I've got a bunch more lined up over the next few weeks. Please keep coming back on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock Central. Hope you guys continue to be well, be safe. Catch you next week.